What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto was banished and became the Shinobi executioner? If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. A child was running for his life on his 5th birthday. He barely looks 5 years old. Last year on the same day, the orphanage he was living in kicked him out after brutally beating and abusing him. His clothes were torn in many places. The only thing that was miraculously unharmed was his orange jacket, which was his only connection to his deceased parents. Since then he was living in streets, scavenging for food from trash cans and sleeping in any safe ally he could find. Living in streets has done wonders for him, as he found out that this trash, which other people find unhealthy to consume as food, is more healthy to eat than the so-called food he was served in the orphanage. Since these are cooked meals for humans and not some stale bread and expired milk. This food has supplied him with much-needed nutrients and proteins for his growth. That is the reason he is not short or suffering from malnutrition. He was in fact a healthy boy for his age. It is strange, the boy, who is the last heir to the throne of a powerful and a prestigious but now wiped country and clan, and the son of the 4th Hokage, the most powerful Hokage of this same village, is living on trash. He is not aware of his heritage or parentage. The Hokage and very few others only know Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, his full name. For rest of the village, he is Uzumaki Naruto, nothing more than an orphan and demon brat at best and a demon at worst, which is the case for him most of the days. A whole year of surviving like this has changed him in many ways. The happy-go-lucky attitude of his had taken a turn, and as a result, now he is much more aggressive. A year earlier, when someone threw a stone or trash at him or said something bad, he just wanted to cry and ran away, but now he retorts at them and throws trash at them. He still has to run afterwards, but now he doesn't take a crap from anyone. Living in the streets had also made him street smart. Now he knows how to survive in the streets, where to find food, the safest place to sleep at night and the best hiding places in the entire village. He now knows the entire tunnel and drainage system of the village and has decent concealment skill for someone without any knowledge or training in ninja arts. However, not every day is kind to him. Some day he is unable to get anything to eat, and other days he has to fight for food with street dogs and other homeless. Last few days have not been merciful for him. He has been roaming for whole day in the village proper in hopes of getting some food, to no avail. As soon as the sun started to set, the villagers started to chase him with any kind of weapon that they could find, ranging from kitchen knives to broomsticks. At first, he didn't understand what was happening, but soon he realized they are out for his blood. The child has not eaten for 2 days, nor has he slept. It is very hard to sleep in empty stomach after being accustomed of having a good meal at least twice a day. However, thanks for the meal he has gotten for last 1 year from trash and the fight he has fought for the right to live in this cruel world, he is fairly fast on his legs and has very good stamina for a boy his age. He does not know why, but everyone in this village is very cruel to him, excluding a few people. Sandaime Hokage is, or was, one of them. He has not seen Naruto in well over 1.5 years. Therefore, he is not aware that he has been kicked out from the orphanage. This village, Konoha or Konohagakure no Sato, a village where the most kindest and peaceful people live, or so they say. It is true for every villager, but for Naruto the villagers are the cruelest and most vicious people. They are demon reincarnated. He was tired from running for almost 3 hours to save his life, and little by little, the mob was gaining on him. He took a turn in an alleyway and a kunai penetrated the wall just above his head. He heard them shouting, "Don't let him get away, we have killed the demon now." He is getting tired from running. The child scoffed at their hypocrisy. They are the one chasing and trying to kill a child, and yet they think he is a demon. He vowed to take revenge on them when he is strong enough, but for now he has to keep running. A dead person can't take revenge after all. The child never understood why every villager called him names like demon, monster and the likes. He asked them, but they did not answer. They even went as far as to calling him murderer and preventing their children from associating with him. Just to make sure that he is a human and not a demon, he once looked at his face in a stream where he takes his weekly baths. What he saw only confused him in more than one way. He has the deepest of blue eyes he had ever seen in the whole village. His face is a little chubby from what little baby fat was still there, with 3 whiskers like marking on each of his cheek. However, the most striking feature he had is his hair. His unkempt and unruly hair is sun-kissed blonde pointing at every direction, with two short bangs framing his face with fiery red edge. His hair looks like it's on fire with blonde and red hair. However, he was confused since this couldn't be the reason that people call him a demon, and he knew that. Whatever the case is, he is not getting any answers from them, so it is no use in dueling in that. For now and forever, he will be Naruto Uzumaki, at least for him. Dodging another kunai, he took another alleyway. As soon as he took a couple of steps, he understood his mistake. It was a dead end. The moment he turned to leave the alleyway, but he found it was blocked by the chasing mobs. The child got sinking feeling in his stomach. The chasing mob was now buzzing with excitement, for they were going to finish what the fourth had started. They were going to kill the demon fox, which is hiding in a child's form. One of them took a couple of steps forward. It looked like he was the leader of the mob. He raised his club to the child and said, "Nowhere to run, demon. This is your end. What fourth started. Tonight we are going to finish it. Tonight we are going to kill you, bastard fox. You have lived long enough." The mob went crazy after this. They raised their weapons and ganged up on the little boy. "How are you feeling, demon? Is our hospitality satisfying to you, or do you want more?" someone from the mob asked. The boy was curled up like a ball with his hands covering his head to prevent any fatal injury. However, when a crazy mob starts beating you with whatever weapon they have, it is nigh impossible to prevent such occurrence. The child was begging them to stop this inhuman torture. But when humanity is lost in the darkness of hatred and revenge, a plea from a child means nothing. So the mob kept beating him within an inch of his life. The more the child pleaded, the more he was beaten. The small child was now so much in pain that he wanted them to just kill him now, so that he never has to experience this again. He was in so much pain that he couldn't even embrace the comfort of unconsciousness. Mindscape. Everyone in the village, older than 13 years, knew that the child was the Jinchuriki of the strongest Biju, Kyuubi no Yoko. That was the reason he is so hated and cursed. Some idiots even went as far as claiming that he is the beast herself. Despite the popular belief that the Kyuubi was the most hateful towards humanity, she never hated the boy or any of her two previous Jinchurikis. In fact, she respected them. In addition, the previous Jinchuriki had earned her friendship. Her current or third Jinchuriki, Uzumaki Naruto, is her previous Jinchuriki's kid and her first Jinchuriki's great-grandson. So, the Kyuubi wanted to help the kid. She really wanted to, for nothing else than just to satisfy her own maternal instincts. However, she could not until he first came to his own mindscape, so she settled for healing all injuries as fast as she could. Since she is locked behind a cage, which is limiting her abilities in helping him, it became hard, though his Uzumaki heritage took care of it. However, what she saw today was too much. How can anyone be so cruel to kill an innocent child was beyond her. She is 1,000-years-old immortal demon, damn it, and even she would never do something like that. She is female, and despite being a demon, she still has maternal instincts, and that might be the reason that she never wanted to harm the child or see him in harm, or it could be that she personally knew his parents. Whatever the reason, she felt insurmountable rage at the villagers. If the villagers wanted to kill the kid, they should just do that and be done with it. The pain was too much for the young Jinchuriki that he couldn't even seek the numb embrace of unconsciousness or the cold embrace of death. Kyuubi roared in impotent rage behind her confinement as the young kid was beaten to a pulp by so-called noble and innocent villagers. If the kid would only lose his consciousness, then she can bring him to the mindscape and soothe him and comfort him. She was doing all she could from behind the seal. When she ran diagnostic, she found that every single bone in his body had been broken, his muscles destroyed and ligaments torn. If she could, she would have transformed into her full Biju mode and killed every single human in this wretched village. She had had enough of this torture and was preparing to end the child's life by forcing all of her yokai into the small boy and poisoning his chakra to kill him. It was too much for her to hear the desperate and painful cry of the small boy. Just to save the boy from any more beating, she was ready to end his life and killing these hypocrite villagers in the process in an act of revenge for her current host's plight. However, before she could do that for hesitation, a villager died by a kunai in his head. Real world. When the villagers had beaten the boy to their heart's content, and thought it was good time to put this bastard out his misery and finish what the fourth started 5 years ago, A kunai ended the life of a villager who had taken part in tormenting the boy for so long. The mob was startled by this sudden incident and tried to finish the demon once and for all, but a swarm of Anbu came out of nowhere and pushed back the villagers. Villagers saw their beloved Hokage stood in front of them, angry beyond words. Before they could even say something, Hiruzen raised his hands and signaled his Anbu to execute all the villagers. Anbu leader and Hokage's personal guards, who were aware to the parentage of the boy, followed their leader's order with gusto. Hiruzen knew if the villagers were arrested and sent to prison, the civilian council will have raised hell for him, so he simply did what was best for all of them. After the execution, Hiruzen picked up the boy and rushed to the hospital. He knew what happened tonight will leave a very deep scar in the boy's mind. After this incident, this child will never want to become the Hokage as he once told him when he was little, nor will he want to do anything for the village or the villagers. This child was supposed to become the hero of Konoha. He was supposed to become greatest shinobi following his parents' footsteps and become a legend himself. Now surely the boy will try to run away. He promised himself right there that he would do all within his power to support, train and nurture the boy and try to prevent such occurrence. He didn't realize that two of his Anbu were having similar thoughts. The Anbus vowed that they would teach the boy all that they could and make him a great shinobi, worthy of his parents' name. Then maybe, just maybe he will decide to stay in this village. With Naruto. After the thrashing he got from those damn villagers, Naruto was in so much pain that he could not even lose consciousness. Therefore, he heard when his Gigi brought him to hospital and yelled at the doctor to treat him. He was very happy that his Gigi came to save him, but at the same time was very angry and disappointed that he never came to see him in last 1.5 years. He was sure that he didn't even know that he was living in the streets. When the doctor saw him and gave him painkillers and sedative, then finally he was able to fall asleep. Mindscape. Naruto woke up and saw that he was sleeping in a sewer with ankle-deep water. He thought that the nurses and doctors had thrown him out of hospital after they treated him. He didn't pay it any mind since this was not the first time they have done it. Ever since the Hokage stopped visiting him, the villagers never missed an opportunity to harass him in any way, so this was a common occurrence to him. He was thinking which way he should go when suddenly he felt tremendous amount of power. Naruto, as any other child, was curious by nature and followed the power to its source. After about 10 minutes of walking and crossing many intersections, Naruto reached a large wooden door. He could sense that the power he felt from before was actually coming from behind this door. So he entered to investigate. The room was illuminated by torches. He saw a giant golden cage with some kind of writing on the outside. He cautiously approached the cage. Suddenly the pressure he felt before left. When he was just a few feet from the gate, two giant slits of cat's or fox's eyes opened. Naruto stared at the eyes for a moment. After a few moments of staring, he came a bit closer than before. "So, you have finally come to visit me, Naruto? I thought you would never come." Naruto was startled as a powerful voice suddenly spoke from behind the cage. He fearfully asked, "Who are you? I am known by many names. Demon, monster, killer are just a few of them. The most common and universal name for me is Kyuubi no Yoko, the great nine-tailed demon lord." As the voice said that, a few torches were lit inside the cage. Naruto could now see that a giant fox was resting inside the cage. His 9 tails were swishing behind him lazily. Naruto was terrified. The one demon who attacked your village only 5 years ago, who was supposed to be dead, was not dead at all and was in fact resting behind a cage and now talking to you. Any person with half a brain will be terrified. Kyuubi sensed his fear and decided to kill it before his fear became too great for him to listen anything further than that. "You know, your mother and I were great friends, Naruto, and through your mother, your fathers as well. In fact, they were the only one among mortals who had earned my friendship." Naruto was stupefied. The Kyuubi was friends with his parents? And how the hell does he know about his parents when the old man Hokage doesn't? He voiced his questions. "You know my parents? Who are they? Where are they? Why did they leave me in a hellhole like this? Don't they care for me? Don't they love me?" Kyuubi could hear the distress in her host's voice, so she answered as best as she could. "There are a few things, Naruto, I may never tell you, and there are a few things you are not ready to learn yet. However, other things I can answer for you. First, I knew your parents. They died, Naruto. About your parents' identity, there is no easy way to say it and you will be shocked, and rightfully so. Your full name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze and you are the son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze. Minato, the Yellow Flash, was the Yondaime of this village. Kushina was also a very competent shinobi. In fact, she was among those very few who could go toe-to-toe with your father in an all-out spar without holding back. She was also one of the few swordsmen in this village. She was the princess of Uzushio. Naruto was again very predictably stupefied. His hero is actually his father? And his mother was as strong as his father was? And she was also a real-life princess. How cool is that? Then he got more questions than it was answered. If he truly was the son of the fourth Hokage and a princess, then shouldn't the villagers respect him and support him? Then he looked at the beast in front of him. Was the demon really telling the truth? He couldn't be sure anymore. He was about to voice his doubts but Kyuubi cut him and began to speak. They loved you since the moment your mother found that she is pregnant with you. They did not want to leave you here alone, Naruto. No parent wants to, they simply did not have a choice. If they could, they both would have lived here with you, to protect you, to nurture you and to train you. However, my attack changed everything. You see, you and your mother both are a special group of people known as Jinchuriki. You have a tailed beast or Biju, which am I in both you and your mother's case, sealed into you. Your mother and you are my second and third Jinchuriki to be precise. When I attacked, your father had no choice but to seal me in you, sacrificing his own life in the process. Naruto was stunned after learning his parents' identity. He is the son of a kage and a princess of a country, so he practically is a royalty. Then he remembered how Yondaime died in Kyuubi's attack. He did not know what to think anymore. On one hand, he is talking to the great beast that attacked his home, who he later found is very much alive and was practically friends with his parents. On the other, he is the reason his father, if not both his parents, died. Why? Why did you attack this village? Naruto asked in a small voice. If you truly were my parents' friend, why did you attack? And what happened to my mother? Can I even trust you that you are telling me the truth about my parents' identity? He looked dejected somehow. Kyuubi understood this. After all what he went through, he definitely is bound to have some trust issues. After a few moments of silence, Kyuubi answered. I did not want to attack Naruto, I was forced to attack. Someone took control of me when your mother was giving birth to you. As I have told you, just like you, your mother was also a Jinchuriki. Someone wanted my power, but as long as your parents were alive, he could do nothing to gain it. So when your mother was exhausted after giving birth to you, he took the chance and broke me out of the seal to take control of me. Then ordered me to attack this village. I am sorry, Naruto, I was not in control, but still both of your parents died because of me. After hearing that, no matter how much he wanted to blame the Kyuubi for his parents' death, he could not bring himself to hate him. He knew if he wanted, he could still blame him for their death and take the easy way out, but he could not bring himself to do that. Just as he was about to talk again, Kyuubi again said something that shook him to his very core. You know, your mother looked up to me as her elder sister. She told me about it many times. She was about to name me your godmother, but that son of bitch had to ruin it. Now Naruto had simply stopped thinking. Just this morning he was the most hated person in this hellhole of a village. And now he knew that he was the son of fourth Hokage and a princess. He himself is a royalty, a noble, and he almost had the great Kyuubi as his godmother. Well, that answers it. If she was about to be named as his godmother, then there is no way she was lying to him about his parentage. Wait, godmother. I am not trying to be rude or anything, but aren't you a male? So shouldn't you be my godfather or something? What gave you the idea that I am a male? Like any capable female, Kyuubi hated comments, and Kami forbid, if this kid is a she will beat it out of him. Literally. Naruto, unaware of the thoughts of Kyuubi, gave her a confused stare and replied, I don't know, your voice is too heavy for a female. Plus, how am I supposed to know what your gender is? You are not even my species. Does it bother you that the most feared demon in the history of this world is a female? Kyuubi asked. Naruto shrugged his shoulder and said, no, not at all. You wouldn't know, but when I was in the orphanage, female caretakers tried to kill me more than the male ones, with a lot more cunning and with a lot more planning. So I know very well what females are capable of. Kyuubi felt sick to her very core. How could she forget about that incident so easily? She is proud for her gender because only her gender was able to bear children no matter the species. It was as if Kami-sama herself had blessed her gender with a small fraction of her power to create life. However, those incidents had made her ashamed of herself and her gender. Naruto is not he thinks they are strong and cunning, but for very wrong reasons. It would have been better if he thought that they are useless. At least that way with enough time and experience he would have understood that he was wrong. She would make sure to kill those bitches if she saw them again. Kyuubi felt this topic had gone long enough. It is time to do some actual talking for future plan and action. Personally, she does not want to stay in this village, but if Naruto wants then she will not force him to do anything he will not like, though she will make sure that it does not go that way. She can be very persuasive when she wants to be. However, either way she will train him and make him stronger. By any means necessary. Naruto, what would you like to do? Kyuubi asked. About what? Naruto asked, not understanding. I mean, do you want to become a shinobi of this village or do you want to do something else? I mean, I understand if you do not like this village, but still you have to train if you want to survive, you know. That man who attacked your parents can and will attack you again. So if you want to have any chance of surviving you have to get stronger no matter what. Yeah, I know I have to get strong just for the right to live. But I do not want to become a shinobi of this village. If it was possible, I would have created my own shinobi village, Naruto answered. Kyuubi felt very ecstatic after hearing this. She never liked this village, since the elders tried to take control of Kushina and train her as their own personal weapon. So she had a lot of anger towards them. So after hearing her, almost, godson's wish she simply could not stop herself from babbling out, then what's stopping you? You have money no daimyo can compete. You have a country completely devoid of anything where you can build your own village. If you are thinking about allies, you do not need one right away. For possible comrades, you should try to find people of your age who are depraved or denied the right to become shinobi for one reason or another or who are not respected and or bullied. You yourself haven't started training yet, so you should find kids of your own age or a bit older who will not only will be able to learn with you and can become your friend, but also will look up to you as their leader, Kyuubi said excitedly. Better yet, the more personal relation you have with them the more they look up to you. Of course you should not take that kind of relation as granted, but it will definitely improve your teamwork and help build trust. What makes you so confident that a land completely devoid of anything will still be left alone for me to rebuild a village? And even if I could I wouldn't do something like that, it would make me look bad if they found out. I mean I will lose their respect, and a person who is not respected by his own friends can never become an effective leader, Naruto pointed out. Kyuubi replied, very intelligent and honorable as well, just like your parents. To answer your questions, only an Uzumaki or descendant of an Uzumaki will be able to step on that island, no one else if they don't have permission. And to answer your second question, it would have, if you just took something valuable but never returned anything, like their trust. Show them you are worth trusting, and they will never think like that. They will think what you are doing is best for them. If you actually encourage them to ask questions about your motives, all the better. That way they will feel secure and will be eager to build a bond. Also, they will want you as their leader. However, you should show leadership qualities as well, like making the hard decisions. That way they will also know that you are not a pushover. Yeah, I get your point. I will think about it. So, about my training, anything on your mind? Naruto asked hopefully. Actually, yes I have. You know how I told about your mother entertaining the idea of me being your godmother. So how about I train you and few of your friends? As your godmother, that responsibility falls to me anyway. So, what do you say? Kyuubi asked her young charge. Naruto was excited beyond belief. He was going to be trained by the great Kyuubi with a few of his friends. Provided that he actually found friends. Suddenly he had a question regarding his training. Kyuubi-sama, Naruto, I am like your mother, you know? That crazy mother of yours was even thinking about naming me your godmother, as I have already told you, so that practically makes us family. You do not need to add sama to my name. I would like it if you call me your mother. You can call me by my name if you'd like, and oh, my real name is Kurai. I am the eldest and most powerful of the 9 Biju. Kyuubi gently admonished Naruto. Naruto was gaping like a fish. After a few moments he timidly asked something, which Kyuubi did not hear. So she asked him to speak again. I asked, can I call you Q-chan? Seeing a look of shock on Kyuubi's face, he hurriedly added, I wouldn't call you that if you don't want me to call you that. It is very hard for me. I never had a family and now suddenly I met you and you want me to call you mother, it's not easy for me. Yes, I know. I wish you would call me Ka-san or Ka-chan, but I will not force you to that. Then you should call me Q-chan if you like, I wouldn't mind Naruto-kun. Kyuubi cut her adoptive son's nervous rambling. What? Was all Naruto could say. I said I would like you to call me your Q-chan. Kyuubi gently repeated. It took all of Naruto's willpower to hold back the tears threatening to spill. Kyuubi gently pulled Naruto into the cage by her tail and held him to her like a loving mother. That was all it took for Naruto to start crying. Kyuubi understood his feelings, so she just held him close to her tighter. After what felt like hours, Naruto finally stopped crying. He felt ashamed for showing this kind of emotional weakness. He thought that his new guardian will think that he is not worthy of the opportunity that she had given him. Knowing exactly what was going on Naruto's head, Kyuubi loosened her grip on him and kissed his forehead and said, It's okay, Naruto-kun. We all show weakness in some point and depend on our loved ones to support us, to help us to get back on our feet. It's okay to cry after all you have gone through, so don't be ashamed and let it all out. It is our bond with our loved ones that makes living easier and makes it a blessing, and these bonds to our loved ones, the trust and love that we feel towards them, make us alive. After all, when we have someone we love and cherish and want to protect them with everything, only then we can find our true power. Kyuubi didn't understood at that moment by saying that what kind of monster she had unleashed upon the world, but even after learning that she will have no time beside being proud of her surrogate son. After that, they just sat there for what seemed like a few minutes. Naruto finally succumbed to the event that had happened since his meeting with Kyuubi and fall asleep. After he woke up, he saw that he was sitting on a woman's lap, a very beautiful woman at that. He yawned and saw that the woman was sleeping as well. Naruto suddenly looked at the woman again. She had also started to wake up. When she saw that Naruto was looking at her funny, she asked, What happened, Naruto-kun, are you okay? Naruto simply looked at her for a few more seconds and asked, Who are you and where is Q-chan? Kyuubi was confused about what Naruto was saying. She looked at him and said that she is the Kyuubi. Naruto would have none of that and kept repeating that she was not the Kyuubi. There is no way a human is the most feared creature of the whole world. After that, Kyuubi looked at herself and she remembered that she had transformed into her human form after Naruto fell asleep. Naruto, it is me, your Q-chan. This is my human form. We demons have 3 forms, beast form, Hanyu form and human form. Only after hearing that, Naruto calmed down. After that, they talked for a few more hours. Then Naruto got confused. Seeing his confused look, Kyuubi asked what happened and he answered, I have woken up at least a few hours ago but I still don't feel hungry, I wonder why. It is because you are still unconscious, Naruto. Kyuubi replied, What do you mean, Q-chan? Naruto asked, not understanding. Remember your Hokage took you to the hospital and the doctors gave you sedatives? Well, after that, you fell asleep and you still have not woken up. You are in your mindscape. What's a mindscape? Naruto asked. Mindscape is your subconscious mind where we are right now. Here 3 days will be only an hour in the outside world. Since here we have spent 3 days, it means in the outside world only an hour has passed. Wow, was all Naruto could say. Then he remembered something from their last conversation. Hey Q-chan, if you are sealed in me, does that mean that you know what happened to me since the moment I was born? Naruto asked. Kyuubi answered, No, I could not. When I was sealed in you, I was asleep for first 2 years of your life. After that I slowly started to wake up. Then why you never talked to me till now if you were awake for last 3 years? Naruto asked. I never talked to you because I could not till now. For me to contact you, you had to first come to your mindscape or you had to be unconscious for me to bring you here, and none of that happened. But now, since the link is established, I can talk to you anytime and you don't even have to come here all the time. We can talk through our link, all you have to do is think, and I will listen. This way I can warn you faster if something is going on around you. After Kyuubi let that sink in for a few seconds, then she again started to speak. Naruto, the villagers, they tried to not only break your body but they also tried to kill you. Though you are alive, your body has suffered immensely. Every bone, muscle and ligament in your body is destroyed. You have to stay in here for at least 6 months. Your bloodline from Uzumaki and my yokai would be enough to completely build newer, denser and stronger bones, muscles and ligaments, but it will take time. In outside world, it will be close to 3 weeks. I do not want you to wake up now, because this will be very painful. However, if you stay here in your mindscape you will not feel pain. In the meantime, I can teach you how to read and write. Is that okay with you? Yeah, it's okay, Naruto casually said. Kyuubi thought he didn't know how serious the matter was. Naruto, I think you do not understand how serious is this. Your entire body structure is destroyed and it has to be rebuilt completely. Naruto understood Q-chan's confusion and said, Q-chan, I know that and I also know how serious the matter is, but right now I cannot do anything about that. What I can do is wait here with you and learn how to read and write. That way when I will wake up I will have one less thing to worry about and I will be able to fully focus on my training. Kyuubi was glad that even in this situation Naruto was calm. After a few moments Naruto asked, Hey Q-chan, you heard about legendary Sannin Tsunade's super strength, right? Can I be that strong? No, I was not building that strong bones, muscles or ligaments, but if you want I can make it a lot more harder and denser, not to that level but much more stronger than others. If I do that right, I think your strength will be 4 times more than your body weight. You will have one mean punch, Naruto-kun, if you train right. Once you start practicing chakra control you will be able to augment your strength a lot more, was Kyuubi's answer. Is there any way that you can improve my reaction time and speed along with my strength? Naruto asked. Kyuubi thought for a moment and said, yes, there is a way, but it will take time. Just to build new bones, muscles and ligaments I will need at least 2 to 3 weeks. To improve your reaction time I have to improve your awareness, your brain's processing speed, along with your senses like your eyesight, hearing and feeling of touch. As far as your speed is concerned, you already have good speed and with your new bones and leg muscles, you will be completely in a different level. However, it will take bit more time, at least a whole month. Are sure? Kyuubi asked and Naruto said, yes, as it will have taken any normal person a lot more time and maybe a miracle just to survive the beating he received. After a few moments of silence, Naruto asked that if there was a way to release her. When asked why he wants to know, he replied, I want you to train me as you promised, but for that you have to be free. Plus I would like to hug you in real, not only in my mind. Naruto added the last part a bit bashfully. Ah, how cute, you want to hug me for real? I am very touched, Naruto-kun. But no, the only way to release me is that you have to die, and I am in no mood in seeing my son die just after I have made contact with him after so many painful years. Though there is a way I can come out from time to time in the real world but it will take time. After that, the conversation halted for a bit. Then Kyuubi again started, about your training, you don't need to worry. I have a few ideas how I am going to train you. Your chakra control will be a problem when you will start training, so our primary focus will be your chakra control. Remember, I said that 3 days here could be only an hour outside? Well, we are going to take full advantage of that. I am going to teach you a good chakra control exercise and a basic taijutsu form here, which you will practice when I am not teaching you how to read or write. It is a style, which you would be able to improve and upgrade if you want. Once you wake up, you will practice that form in your physical body and train your body to be stronger, because remember, though you will have more strength you will not gain it at once. It will be like your strength is increasing little by little. Because if you do not know how to use your strength properly it can be your downfall. After 1 year, I am going to do something with your chakra. If that works, then you will have someone legendary along with me training you. And if that fails I have a backup plan, was Kyuubi's answer. After that, they took advantage of the situation and kept training in taijutsu, chakra control theory, trying to feel his chakra flow, reading, writing and whatnot. They kept at it for a whole month for outside world, but in his mindscape, Naruto received training from the legendary Kyuubi equivalent for almost 6 years. In this amount of time, most of his time was dedicated in learning how to read and write properly and learning general knowledge. Geography from what Kyuubi remembered from her time with Kushina, the taijutsu style she was teaching Naruto, and of course feeling his chakra with some added basics in bojutsu, kenjutsu training and learning about his parents. When he will wake up, Naruto will be a completely different person. Real world, it has been over a month since the incident. Naruto's injuries were healed, but for some reason he still had to wake up. For this past 4 weeks Hiruzen had came to the hospital to check on Naruto and to keep the doctors from trying to do anything. He had forced the civilian council to work like the Shinobi council to carry their own weight and do their work on their own so that he can have some time for himself. He found out that for at least a year or more the civilian council have been gradually increasing his paperwork and other duties so that he does not have any time to visit Naruto. He also found out that last year he was kicked out from the orphanage. After that, the first thing he did is he bought an apartment for Naruto so that he doesn't have to live in the streets anymore. The civilian council was a pain in the ass to deal with. They tried to overrule him and questioned his authority about killing those villagers, but he simply reminded them about the law he passed 5 years ago. After that, they just kept their quiet. Hiruzen was worried for Naruto. Despite his injuries, he should have been awake by now. His heritage and burden should have made sure of that. These past weeks he had organized his schedule and found that he has 7 hours free to do whatever he wished. He decided to use this time to rest a bit and train Naruto in taijutsu, bojutsu, kenjutsu, basic ninjutsu and when he is a bit older, sealing arts. After all, what Uzumaki didn't know sealing? However, for that to work Naruto first had to wake up. Just when he was about to give up for the day and head home, he heard groaning. He looked aside and saw that Naruto was waking up. He immediately called for a doctor. After examining and clearing Naruto as perfectly healthy, the doctor left. Hiruzen asked, "How are you, Naruto?" Naruto didn't know what he should say. On one hand, he was happy to see one person in the whole village, who looked at him like he was a human, but on the other, he was pissed beyond belief. Naruto stayed in his mindscape for longer than necessary because Kyuubi had to warn him about a few things and had to tell him about a few more things. Among them was information on how Hiruzen had deliberately lied to him about the identity of his parents and his reasons for lying. Naruto understood the reasoning, but to him it was not enough, because if he accepts the Hokage's reasoning, then it means that the village's security is not enough to protect him, the last heir to a clan and the son of a Kage, and despite knowing this, he did nothing to correct it. And if that is true, then what about other villagers' safety? Not that he cared much about them. That's why he chose neutral voice to answer. "I am alright, Hokage-sama, thank you for asking." Nothing could have hurt Hiruzen more than with the voice Naruto used to answer his question, but he understood why he did that. No child should go through the things Naruto had to. "Well, doctors have cleared you, so you can go to your home. However, I would like it if you accompany me to my office. Is that okay with you?" Naruto was about to say no, but Kyuubi stopped him and said to follow him and see what he wants. She said that she felt that whatever it is that the old man wants, it is nothing bad for him, but he was really tired and he didn't know what he would do if he went with his Gigi without clearing his mind first. Kyuubi understood his reasoning and left it at that. "I am tired, Hokage-sama, so I would like to go home for now and rest. After all, you know how tiring it could be if you are beaten within an inch of your life by the villagers on your 5th birthday." His voice was full of bitter sarcasm. After that, he just left without even looking back. Hiruzen stood there dumbfounded. Naruto not only had blown his request, he had also deliberately lied. He knew for matter of fact that he had nowhere to go as the orphanage had kicked him out, and he was living in the streets for a whole year. He understood how much he had hurt the bundle of joy that he didn't share his burden and pain with him. He knew that he had failed his successor, but he did not know he had messed up this badly. He was truly ashamed of himself. He again vowed to Minato and Kushina that he would do all that he can to protect their child. But for now, he will wait. He is aware that Naruto is very tired and wants to rest, so he will give him the time. He was just hoping that Naruto would come around and he will again see the hyperactive ball of joy that made his day before. 2 weeks later. It has been 2 weeks since Naruto was released from the hospital. Hiruzen had requested that Naruto should come with him as he had some important things to discuss, but Naruto simply did not care and left him in hospital room. Naruto still had not talked to him after that. At first Kyuubi tried to talk him out of his funk, but after Naruto explained his reasoning, Kyuubi didn't say anything about this. Within 10 minutes after being released from the hospital, an Anbu found him, gave him a key and said that the Hokage has given him a new apartment to live. Then the Anbu took him to his new apartment. Upon entering his new home, he first ate something and then slept through the night. He thought that the Hokage must have found out that he is no longer welcome in the orphanage anymore and he was kicked out from it a long time ago. This must be the reason he wanted to talk about. For the new apartment, he was thankful towards the Hokage, but it was nowhere enough to forgive him for the treatment he received until now and left in the dark about his parents' identity. Though his anger and resentment lessened, but still it is not enough. At first Kyuubi wanted him to make amends with the old man, but Naruto explained that no matter what, no one had the right to keep his parents' identity from him. No matter whose decision it was, ultimately he paid the price. This beating was the only incident the Hokage was aware of, but there are other incidents he knew nothing about, and Kyuubi was the only one who knew how he was treated in the village. Next day, when he was calm enough to listen to reason, Kyuubi made him promise that when they will see the Hokage next time he will behave at least civilly towards him, and if the situation arises, he will inform him that he is aware of his parentage, but other than that, he will do nothing. As far as his property went, Kyuubi had a plan to acquire them when the time comes. She informed Naruto that despite Hokage's wishes, the council might have overruled him and tried to absorb his property. Since Kyuubi never liked the council, if they actually tried to absorb Naruto's property, they will pay dearly. However, for now, they will bide their time and wait for the opportunity to strike and take them by surprise. After a few days of rest, his real training under Kyuubi began. That training was anything but easy. She had him run across a training field for 10 laps, and then had him do 50 push-ups, pull-ups, chin-ups, squats and whatnot. After that came his taijutsu training. In Mindscape, Kyuubi had taught him 8 katas for this form, 4 offensive and 4 defensive, but told him to practice only first katas for both offensive and defensive purpose. When Naruto asked what form of taijutsu he was learning, Kyuubi said that this style is actually a fusion between his father's and mother's fighting style. A style which could be modified to his liking and upgraded to his needs. After that, he put everything he had in learning and mastering this style. Though Kyuubi warned him not to show this style to anyone in Konoha he doesn't trust completely. His chakra control exercises are coming along well. Since he had already done chakra flowing exercise, he was able to feel and tap into his chakra easily. He also had better chakra control than either of them expected, but chalked it up as a result of starting his training way early than expected. However, Kyuubi knew better. She understood that this was happening because his father, Minato, was Senju from his father's side. After training in chakra control, Naruto took a short break and had a small breakfast. After that, he trained in controlling and releasing right amount of strength for different purposes and increasing his strength. This is how he was training for last 2 weeks, and was having time of his life. Kyuubi was very pleased with Naruto's efforts as well. Except for ignoring her wish and not contacting with Hiruzen even for once in the last 2 weeks, Naruto had passed her expectations with flying colors. Within this 2 week of time, Naruto had mastered 2 of defensive katas and 1 offensive kata of the taijutsu style Kyuubi taught him, and he is well in his way of mastering the second offensive kata. Within next couple of days, he will have it mastered. After finishing his training for the day, he was going to his apartment when an Anbu came and informed him that the Hokage wants to meet with him. He informed him that within half an hour he would be there after he is freshened up. He did not notice this is the Anbu who gave him the key to his apartment. Hokage office. When he entered the Hokage's private office, he saw Hiruzen sitting behind his desk doing some paperwork. "You asked me to see you, Hokage-sama?" Naruto asked in a neutral voice. Hiruzen really wanted Naruto to call him Gigi just like he did in the past, but he understood that after experiencing the things he had, it would be miraculous if he even start being civil towards him or any of the villagers. He hid his disappointment and sadness and answered in a jovial tone, "Ah, Naruto-kun, I am glad you are here. Come sit, we have much to discuss. Any particular reason why you asked me to come here?" Naruto politely inquired. "What, can't I want to see my grandson?" Hiruzen asked in jovial voice in hopes of diffusing the tension, "But, if you wanted to see me you could have done that any time in the last 18 months. So either you tell me the reason you ordered my presence or I will simply walk out of your office." It came back to bite him in the ass. It was just not his day, Hiruzen decided. "I wanted to see you, my boy, I wanted to know if you were all right, but more than that I wanted to be there for you when you need me, and now you need me more than ever. What happened last month can happen again. I don't want to see you in hospital bed. I want you to become strong, and I want to help you become strong, Naruto-kun. I don't know what happened to you, but you change." Hiruzen was desperate for that bundle of joy, who did not care for anyone's opinion and called him Gigi, who really became his surrogate grandson. Yes, I change. Try to live in the streets for a whole year and I guarantee it, anyone will change. Naruto replied in a cold tone. I completely disagree that I need you now more, because I don't. Now let's talk about your offer. Since you said you want me to become strong, I want to know how. And more importantly why? Naruto asked. I am going to train you in anything and everything that I can. As for why, I want to see you truly smile again. I want to see you accept me just like you did when you were little. That's all Hiruzen could say, desperation and hope evident in his voice. Hokage-sama, if you are looking for forgiveness from me because you abandoned me, then you have a long way to go. But if you are looking for acceptance from me, then I can't guarantee you will find it anytime soon, or ever for that matter. So if I were in your place, I would not let my hopes get too high. Naruto coldly replied. Now let's talk about my training. What are you going to teach me? I want clear details and my schedule. I have some things in my mind that I would like to be trained in and learn. Oh, and before I forget, I will not be joining your Shinobi Academy, and I would highly appreciate it if you don't tell anyone about my training under you except those who are going to train me, if there are others who are going to train me. I will not ask why you don't want anyone else to know that I am training you, but why don't you want to join the Shinobi force? Naruto didn't even have to think for the answer. The way the civilians and a few shinobi of your village treated me for last 1.5 years and maybe from the day I was born, is enough reason for me to kill them. They always behaved to me like I am some kind of disease. Though I am not going to kill them, however, I am definitely not going to protect them in the future either. But if I become a shinobi, I will have to defend them and protect them even if I don't want to, and I won't be able to ignore it, for it will be my duty to protect them. Hiruzen knew when he saw a fine shinobi in the making, and he realized that he, along with the village, lost a very talented shinobi who will definitely become a legend in the future. However, right now he could not do anything. So he focused on ensuring if he had any motive of endangering Konoha in the near or distant future. Fine, my boy, I have no choice in the matter, so I will accept it, but answer my one question though. What do you want to do once your training is done? Hiruzen inquired. Naruto's reply was ready in an instant. Not becoming your shinobi is a given because I already told you. Though I really want to kill the civilian population, I will not do so, provided that they do not attack or provoke me first. But if they do, then all bets are off. I want to get trained so that I can protect myself from harm, because your shinobi will take every chance they can get to harm me, as they have done for so many times. But this training is also for my future as well, as I want to protect anyone in need. If you want to train me even after hearing this, then it's your problem. However, if you still want to teach me, then I would like to be trained in bojutsu, kenjutsu, seal-making, politics, negotiation, law and regulation inside and outside of Konoha and Fire Country, ninjutsu, first aid and gardening, poisons and psychology. Kyuubi actually gave Naruto a list for the things he has to learn, and he just recited them. As long as you don't use your techniques and teachings to endanger Konoha, I have no problem. Hiruzen replied instantly. However, Naruto's, then you should not teach me, because I know very well that your Konoha is going to be endangered. Because from this moment onward, if your dumb and stupid civilians and shinobi alike attack me again, then I am definitely going to give them a piece of my mind. Whether I am trained or not is irrelevant. Caught him off guard. Hiruzen sighed. He knew that the reason Naruto gave him is perfectly justifiable, so he can teach him, but still he was having an uneasy feeling, and no matter how much he tried, he just could not shake it off. Tell me, Naruto-kun, why are you behaving like this towards me? What have I done to receive such treatment from you? Hiruzen asked, trying to figure out the reason of his surrogate grandson's resentment towards him. Though, he saw that today Naruto was much calmer than the other day, but still he was not the same boy he used to be. He was a lot more aggressive. He was much colder towards him, and he could not figure out why. Naruto was silent for a minute, discussing with Kyuubi if he should tell Sarutobi that he is aware about his parents' identity or not. After discussing it with his Q-chan, he decided that he should tell him about it, but decided to hold back the knowledge that he is aware of his Jinchuriki status. It's not what you have done, Hokage-sama, it's more of what you haven't done. You held back my parents' identity from me, which I could not forgive you for. Council members who were under your control treated me, the last living heir and prince of a once great clan and country, their beloved fourth Hokage, Namikaze Minato, and princess of Uzushio Kushina Uzumaki's only son, like less than dirt. They avoided me like plague, and you did nothing to prevent it. Naruto said the last sentence with so much distaste and anger that it was almost palpable. Without breaking his eye contact with Hiruzen, he continued, "So you see, old man, I am not mad at you for doing something. It's opposite actually, as I am angry at you for doing nothing to prevent it." With each word Naruto spoke, Hiruzen became paler and paler until he resembled a sheet. He understood now why Naruto resented him so much, but for the love of Kami, he could not figure out who could tell him about this. He knew he ruined his relation with his grandson without any possibility of ever restoring it again. Before Hiruzen could say anything, Naruto once again started to speak. "Within next 2 days I want my both parents' jutsu, be it nin, tai or genjutsu, sealing knowledge and heirlooms and monetary property. God forbid, if I find that anything is amiss, then may Kami-sama have mercy on Konoha because I won't." Naruto wanted to simply walk out through the door, but looking at Hiruzen's pale face, Kyuubi immediately knew something was up, so she told Naruto to ask about it. When he asked Hiruzen about it, at first he denied, but when pressurized, he confessed to Naruto that the civilian council and a few shinobi clan head wanted to keep his parentage a secret from him so that they can get their hands on his property and jutsu library. Hearing this, Naruto was furious. He was so much enraged that he unconsciously channeled Kyuubi's yokai, and as a result, his eyes turned blood red. Only joint effort of Hiruzen and Kyuubi calmed him down a little, though Hiruzen was truly afraid for the well-being of Konoha. Then the Hokage informed him that no matter how much they tried, they simply could not find it. He knew for a fact that their jutsu and their knowledge about anything and everything is locked behind Namikaze estate, but no one knew about where their property went. After 5 minutes of discussion with Kyuubi, Naruto decided that enough is enough. No matter what, he won't let anyone take his property away from him, no matter who is against him or what, as these are the only things left behind by his parents for him. He, upon discussing best course of action with Q-chan, decided that for now he could do nothing. Jutsu and heirlooms are safe in his clan estate, which is locked by a blood seal, and only he can open it, and rest of his property will have to be located first. Kyuubi right then decided what will be Naruto's first unofficial mission in his long shinobi career, but it'd have to wait for a while. Stealing his nerve, Naruto addressed Hiruzen with a clear, disgusted voice, "Hokage-sama, if you ever cared for me as a grandson as you so openly claim you have, then you have exactly 1 week to come clean and tell me how much monetary property I have inherited from, both, my parents, and don't lie to me, because if you do I will find out. Along with that, I want to know what are the other properties I have left from my parents. I want to know the address to my clan estate. Make sure I have a definite answer to my question and query. I want you to locate where my parents' other property went. After that, if you don't want to train me, I don't give a damn." After a few moments, Naruto started to speak. "I know why you hid my parents' identity from me, and to be honest, I am disappointed in you. You and your lackeys so openly claim that Konoha is the strongest of the great 5 villages, and yet you hid my parentage because you could not protect me from all attacks. Tell me, if you knew your security is not up to the standard, then how do you propose you are going to protect so many villagers? After all, I am but one child and you would have known where I was, but what about other no-name civilians? And even after knowing that it is not up to the task, what have you done to rectify that?" These questions made Hiruzen paler even more, if that was possible. He just could not fathom the boy in front of him anymore. He didn't know his carefully planned tactic to protect him could be torn apart like that. He was wondering why Danzo never said anything about this. However, Naruto was not done. "Moreover, you hid that your council members wants to strip me of my parentage, my heritage, strip every yen of money I have and every single jutsu created by my parents and every single heirloom they inherited from their ancestors. Hope you are not hiding anything else from me, Hokage-sama. I thought of you as my grandfather as well, but it looks that I chose the wrong person. I just hope that you can do your duty as a Hokage, because I don't want to lose any more respect for you, as you are already on very thin ice. Though your council will pay dearly for what they did to me, you can be sure about it. The only question is how severe their crime is and how I am going to punish them." After that, Naruto simply walked out of Hiruzen's office. Hiruzen just sat there dumbstruck at what just happened. The boy who was his surrogate grandson learned about his parents' identity, and he didn't know how and from whom. Then he openly challenged his authority over his council. Then criticized his decision regarding keeping him in dark about his parents' identity. pointed out some very interesting but mind-numbing and terrifying flaws in his plan, and learned that his council is trying to strip him from everything that he has without telling him. All but ordered him to distinguish his property from the villages. Moreover, if that was not enough, he gave a not-so-subtle threat about the well-being of Konoha if he is ever wronged again, with the maturity, power and voice of a man. Moreover, the most astonishing part is he believed Naruto with every fiber of his body that he could deliver his promised punishment on Konoha. He knew right then that what he is about to do will definitely upset the council, but at this point he simply did not cared. He knew if after the beating Naruto had high chance of him leaving the village. Now it increased by tenfold and he did not want to lose his surrogate grandson, a hero, a legend in the making. Naruto right now is pissed at him, his council, the villagers and his way of handling things. If what he asked from him about his rightful property were not answered, he would do something no one would like. Moreover, if he found that he is the Jinchuriki of Kyuubi no Kitsune and the village council, civilian and shinobi alike, wants to use him as nothing more than their weapon, then he will deliver his punishment to him and to the whole village, consequence be damned. Right now Hiruzen did not know if he should be proud of Naruto for showing tremendous maturity, cunning and showing the subtle signs of a great leader in the making while talking to him, especially after he confessed the council's wrongdoing, or be terrified of him about his actions when he will find that the civilian council is responsible for yet another attempt at sabotaging him. Because he knew Naruto would find out. The most terrifying part was when he unknowingly channeled Kyuubi's powerful yokai in his yes while talking to him. The one thing that hurt him the most when Naruto said that he thought of him as his grandfather as well, but it was a wrong choice and he did not want to lose any more respect for him, which clearly indicated that he is very much disappointed in him. Another thing that surprised him was how a 5-year-old child can talk like that, with the maturity of a man of high stature, like a noble. He made a mental note to ask him about it when he would see him next if he talks to him with a straight face. No matter what he did not know right now, he knew one thing for sure, he was getting too old for this shit. When Naruto left the office, an Anbu suddenly came to view. This was very unnatural, as they never came to view if not ordered. Before Hiruzen could even ask what happened, the entire office was filled with the killing intent of the Anbu. Other 3 Anbu also came out of hiding to restrain the first one, but after receiving a killing intent-filled glare from her, they backed off slightly, still close to stop her if she did anything. The first Anbu with a cat mask on started to speak in clear disgusted tone. "I hope you are happy after what you have done. You took every chance away from my sensei's son to have a happy life and condemned him to a crappy, cruel and disgusted life. If it was not my duty to protect you, I would have attacked you without any mercy." Hiruzen was clearly surprised by this. He asked in a cold authoritative tone, "Do you know what you have done now could be seen as treason?" Cat was not amused. "To hell with that. I have had enough. When I wanted to adopt him, you and your bloody council turned me down at every chance you got, and now you are threatening me with treason. You have a lot of nerve, old man." Hiruzen didn't know what he should do. Cat was one of the best Anbu under his command, and she is the most respectful amongst them. To hear her call him old man was something he never thought he would listen. It also gave him a clear message about his other 3 bodyguards. They were also trembling, but for what he was not sure, it could be rage or it could be the killing intent. Cat again started, "Today not only Naruto-kun lost respect for you, I lost a lot of respect for you as well. I am going to train my sensei's son in Kenjutsu whether you give me permission or not." After that, she turned around and left. Though his Anbu guards' faces were hidden, he could tell they were looking at him with disdain. It also registered to him that he forgot to signal his Anbu to leave the room when talking to Naruto. Shit, was the only thought ringing in his brain. After Naruto came out of the office, Kyuubi told Naruto that she knew where his parents' estate was. Naruto was very happy about it and asked if she would help him find it. Kyuubi answered that she will, but not now. They have to enter the estate as secretly as possible, and after his reaction with the Hokage, he will definitely keep an eye on him. So they have to be on guard for some time. In addition, he has to increase his stealth as well, which will take at least 2 months. After that, they will go to his parents' estate, but not just to visit. They will have a mission as well. When he asked what was the mission, Kyuubi said that he had to wait till he gets to his apartment. Once there, Kyuubi told him that his parents' estate is locked with a blood seal and thus only could be opened by someone from their family. Since he is the last from both families and the Uzumaki clan, he is the only one who can open the blood seal and gain access to the estate. His mission is to gain access to his parents' house without alerting any patrolling squad. Once inside, they will search for his father's office and jutsu library. From there he will take a few books on seal making, chakra control, basic ninjutsu, kenjutsu, taijutsu, and any relevant books that will catch their eyes. Naruto was very happy that even if the whole world conspired against him, he would always have his Q-chan to depend on, as she will never betray him. After that, Naruto threw himself in his training even more. However, he dedicated most of his time in increasing his stealth, by wearing bright orange jumpsuit and pranking the whole populace of Konoha, no exception. Not even for the Hokage. With this training, his stealth increased by tenfold. 2 months later, at midnight, when everyone was sleeping in their home and only a few chunin and a few squads of Anbu were guarding the village, one small boy of 5 years of age was slowly moving towards the outskirts of the village. He was moving towards the Namikaze mansion, his parents' home. The boy, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, was on his first mission authorized and given by his Q-chan. He is to secretly gain access to his parents' home and retrieve anything and everything in there. After 15 minutes of walk, he reached his destination. He just stood there, admiring the mansion, which could have been his home. After sighing in wishful thinking, he bit his thumb and smeared his blood in panel outside the gate. After 5 seconds of waiting, the gate slowly and silently opened and gave him entrance. After entering the gate, he first saw a lawn where different types of plants, medical and spice herbs and weeds are growing. Despite all of this, there was a clear paved path to walk. He silently walked and came to the front door where another blood seal was blocking him. He again applied his blood and entered his parents' home for the first time in his life. Kyuubi knew if Naruto started to wander and saw his parents' photo, he will be devastated and their mission will fail. So she gently yet firmly guided him to his father's office where all of his parents' books, jutsus and seals were kept. She wanted to give Naruto a little time to mourn his lose, but first they had to complete the mission. Once in the office, he saw rows upon rows of books on fuinjutsu, gardening, ninjutsu, taijutsu, kenjutsu and whatnot. The office was messy and unkempt, but it still had an authoritative air to it. Like an impression of power and grandeur with a welcoming and gentle nature, beckoning to you with reassurance of protection and care. It looked like the person who was working here had just left and will be back shortly. Upon seeing all the books, Kyuubi told him what books to take for now and Naruto took them and sealed them in a sealing scroll he found in the office. There were different kinds of seals everywhere in the office. When he turned a corner, he saw that there was a seal on the shelves. When he came closer, he saw they were some kind of storage seal. Without thinking anything, he applied his chakra to them and suddenly that shelf was gone in poof of smoke. When the smoke cleared, he saw there was a scroll on the ground with a seal for taijutsu. Kyuubi immediately knew what it was. She told Naruto that the seal he saw on the shelf was an advanced sealing type which once applied to an object, seals them to a scroll for easier time in transporting. She told Naruto to apply his chakra to all the seals and by doing so, everything in his father's office turned in a scroll. Then he sealed all of them in another big scroll. When that was done, he came to his father's table, where he saw a scroll addressed to him. He opened it and saw a letter and a deed, which made him the successor to his parents' every jutsu, every seal and every last drop of property. He found out that his parents' money was sealed and the seal attached to the letter. Kyuubi clarified that his parents must have withdrawn their money so that they could deposit it later in the bank when he had an account, but after her attack, it was impossible to do and thus these were left here for all this time. From there he also learned that he had another storage hidden in the Hokage office behind his photo. Naruto made a mental note to visit there and see what was there. When Naruto turned to leave, Kyuubi stopped him and said that now the mission was complete, he can visit the house and to see if he likes anything. She also told Naruto that she wanted him to finish the mission first as this experience will be overwhelming for him. After exiting the office, he came in what seemed like a drawing room. Then he came to the stairs leading upstairs as his Q-chan told him that his parents' room was in upstairs. There he saw a lot of rooms mostly for guests. However, 2 rooms stood out the most. One was a big room with a king-sized bed and 2 nightstands on each side of the bed. It had a big wardrobe in the walls. Naruto knew this was his parents' room. He saw that there were a few photos on the walls. He walked to one of the photos. He saw that in the photo, there was a man with sun-kissed blonde hair supporting and hugging a very beautiful redhead woman. They both were smiling. The woman's tummy was also swelled. He knew they were his parents and his mother was pregnant with him at that time. It brought tears in his eyes but also left a happy smile on his lips. He saw few more photos of his parents together, but it was the only one with all three, technically two, of them together. He took that photo and sealed it in his scroll. After that, he came to a smaller room. It was dark in there, so he lit the light. Once the light was on, he turned. What he saw left a pained gasp and an overwhelming realization in him. This was supposed to be his room. It was painted in baby blue color. It had a crib in the middle of the room, and a box full of toys for him. It had everything a baby would need and more. It was decorated with ribbons and toony characters. It didn't take long for Naruto to understand that it was to welcome him in this family, from his parents. Suddenly it was too much for Naruto to look, to think or to do anything. He didn't realize it, but tears had started to flow from his eyes, and after a few moments, he started to cry loudly. He was crying at the love his parents showed even before he was born. He cried at the care that still lingered in the room. He cried at the warmth with which everything was done. But he cried most at his misfortune of not being able to receive it. It was only bad before he knew about his parents' identity. It became painful but bearable when he learned about his parents, but now when he had seen how much his mom and dad loved him even before he was born, and it became unbearable for him to think anything else. It was just not fair. He almost had everything, from loving parents to a beautiful house. He was sure that it was once a very beautiful home with his mother's touch and his father's strict but loving care and guidance. If only his parents were alive, he would have been loved, cherished. He was so close to having a perfect life with his parents, and now it was all gone. He didn't even saw his parents, not even once. Naruto slid down with his back facing the wall and sat at the cold floor, hugging his knees, still crying. How cruel his life can be. Inside his mindscape, Kyuubi was crying as well. She was feeling the sad mood her host was releasing. But she also became more determined in helping Naruto in his quest to become powerful. She vowed to make him the strongest shinobi to ever walk the earth. In the morning, when morning came, Naruto woke up from his sleep. He looked around and saw that he was not in his apartment. Then everything from last night came back to him in a flash. He remembered that he was in fact in his parents' home. He remembered that after he looked at his room, he cried himself to sleep. He saw that it was still dark outside and he can safely return to his apartment. He came out of the estate and promised to his parents that he will return again, and with that promise, he left. He was thankful to his Q-chan because first she led him to his parents, to their house. Then she guided him to complete their mission, and when that was done, she led him to explore his house. And when he needed it, gave him his privacy. The day after their mission, an Anbu came to Naruto's apartment and told him that the Hokage wants to meet him at Hokage Tower at 8:30 a.m. sharp. Naruto groggily closed the door and freshened up. After eating light breakfast, he locked the door and started to walk towards the Hokage Tower. On the way, he noticed the ever-present glares the civilians were giving him, but this time he did not behave like he didn't notice them. No, this time he returned them twofold. The populace was not happy about it, and he did not give a damn. After 15 minutes of walk, he reached the Hokage Tower. Just outside the tower, Hiruzen was waiting for him. When he reached to him, he nodded to him and told him to brace himself. After a quick sunshin, they reached Training Ground 53. After reaching there, Hiruzen said that this is where he would be trained in Konoha's academy taijutsu style, bojutsu, kenjutsu, sealing and everything else he wanted to be trained in the span of next 3 years. After quickly explaining what will be Naruto's training schedule for next 3 years, and how it will affect him in the future, they both got to work. It was the most intense physical work Naruto had ever done, but still he was happy. One thing he noticed was the taijutsu style he learned from Q-chan was far more advanced than the style the Hokage is teaching him. After 4 hours of rigorous training, they decided it was time to head home. But before that, Hiruzen invited Naruto for lunch. When training Naruto, Hiruzen noticed a few things about his surrogate grandson, which should not be possible. So, he asked him about this. "Naruto, I have a few questions for you. Would you mind answering them?" Naruto thought that he could indulge him with a few questions as long as it is not something that can harm him later on, so he said that, it depends on the question. Hiruzen asked, "My boy, I have noticed that you look healthier than normal boys your age. How is that possible, if you don't mind me asking?" Naruto casually took a bite of his food and ate it slowly, savoring the moment. Then he answered, "When I was in the orphanage, the food they gave me was anything but healthy, it was not even edible most of the time. I only got to eat once or twice in every 2 to 3 days, sometimes they didn't even give me anything to eat in a whole week. So I guess my body learned to adapt and get every drop of nutrition from whatever I got to eat. Last year when they kicked me out of the orphanage on my 4th birthday, I spent 5 days without eating. But hunger is a thing that can make you go mad. When I couldn't take it anymore, I searched for food in trash cans, and guess what? The food I found in trash cans are way more tasty than the stale bread and expired milk I was served in the orphanage, and at least 10 times more healthy. Since my body was already adjusted of getting all the nutrients it could get from those foods, when I got my first bite of food your kind finds as trash, I guess my body started to have field day every time I get to eat. Now I don't go to bed hungry that often." Hiruzen was speechless. The boy he calls his surrogate grandson has been living in the streets for 1 year and he did not even knew about it before the incident, and every time he thinks about it, it shames him to no end. He didn't notice it, but Tucci, the owner of the Ichiraku ramen bar, was glaring at him. Naruto felt it, and looked at him expecting to be glared at, but to his immense surprise, he was not glaring at him. No, he was glaring at the Hokage. As for Hiruzen, he truly felt ashamed. When he asked him where he is living now, Naruto answered, "I lived in the streets for 1 year exactly. After I was released from the hospital, I have been living in the apartment you gave me, and I am very thankful to you for the apartment, by the way, though you could have picked a better place. The way my neighbors glare at me is not amusing. One of these days they are going to get hurt." Hiruzen was surprised by this. After that, Hiruzen said it is up to the village to take care of orphans until they come of age and are able to take care of themselves, and since Naruto was living in the streets for 1 year, he will have a hefty sum on him. Naruto wanted to decline, but Kyuubi said that it is for the best, as he is not supposed to have any money, so he accepted it. Though he said that he wouldn't need money if he can't spend it, and by the looks of it, he doesn't think that anyone in the village would want to sell him his basic needs. So if Hiruzen really wants to help, he should find him a place where he can eat without being thrown out or being overcharged, and a few shops to get his necessities. Sarutobi said that the restaurant where they are eating now would be a good place and they can make him good and healthy food as long as he pays. Naruto agreed since the price was reasonable. He also said that there are a few stores who will not overcharge him nor will they throw him out, and within next 2 days, he will give him the names of these stores. He also told Naruto to come to his office later that afternoon to collect his stipend, for last 1 year and for this month as well. Later that same day, when Naruto went to Hiruzen's office to get his stipend, he was informed that the Hokage has made an appointment with the hospital to check on him for any injury or malnutrition or anything else. Naruto knew this was pointless since his Q-chan already has taken care of these issues earlier, but he did not want to waste any more time and be done with it, so he quietly followed. The doctor gave his report, in which he said that he had never seen anyone healthier in his long career. Sarutobi was not surprised, since he figured out that the Kyuubi would heal Naruto if not for anything else then to avoid dying himself. Naruto was very enthusiastic to train and get strong, and Kyuubi and Hiruzen were more than happy to train him. Whatever they taught Naruto, he just soaked it up like a sponge. He is what they would call a genius, a prodigy, just like his parents. However, being only 5 years old, he, like any other children his age, was very impatient. Therefore, both of his teachers had to tell him about his parents, how they trained day in and day out diligently without breaking their focus to get strong like they were. This method was one of many ways they found to get Naruto's attention at the task at hand. Hiruzen and unknown to him, Kyuubi, both wished to give Naruto a childhood filled with joy and happiness, a loving family, but they both knew he would never have it that easily. He has to fight for everything that he wants, no holding back. Hell, he had to fight for just the right to live like a normal person, and this village will make it impossibly hard for him to do so. Hiruzen had also issued 2 of his Anbu in training Naruto. Kat or Izuki Yugao and Anbu Commander Inu or Kakashi Hitaki, students of Naruto's mother and father respectively. He didn't forget the incident with Kat, but no matter what, after witnessing and hearing about how Naruto lived till the incident, he just could not bring himself to punish her by not allowing her to train Naruto. Naruto had taken a shine to her almost instantly, but he took a lot of time for Kakashi. Yugao almost instantly started to train him in Kenjutsu and was impressed with his skill for someone who never held a sword before. Though Naruto trains diligently as a good student, he still has his moments. Moments when his senseis can just forget about his painful life just for a few hours, when he executes his pranks on the shopkeepers who defiantly refused to sell him anything, even when he had money. Though he refuses to call it his vengeance and calls it his stealth training by executing this prank while wearing bright orange jumpsuit. Thankfully, Hiruzen had introduced him to Ichiraku's so that he would not have to go to bed empty stomach, along with a shinobi store run by a young girl, only 1 year older than him, for clothes and weapons. Tucci, the owner of the ramen shop, was a family friend of Naruto's parents and were in fact aware of whose son he really was, and so he never treated him any different from other children. When he learned that Naruto had started his training, he said that ramen is not a dish and should not be eaten every day, and he had a few different recipes for those in training to be a shinobi. So they made him these special dishes to keep him healthy so that he could keep training and keep growing strong. Later, when Hiruzen told them that he is aware who his parents were, so he don't have to pretend that he is just another child, Tucci was extremely happy. He told Naruto that these recipes were actually invented by his mother to make healthy food taste better. After that, Tucci and his daughter Ayame became Naruto's very first precious people he would do anything for, and he understood why that day Tucci was glaring at the Hokage. Time skipped Naruto age 6. For the next 1 year, Naruto's routine was the same. He would wake up in the morning early, wash his face, eat a small breakfast and head to the training ground. There he would train for 4 hours non-stop. After that, he would eat lunch and head to Hiruzen's office, where he will learn about politics, negotiation, rules in and out of Konoha and out of Fire Country, gardening and other skills he wanted to learn. He was also learning about theory behind seal making and practices his handwriting so that when he learns to make seals, he would not make silly mistakes. Then in the evening, he will train again. His training under Kyuubi had also intensified. Now he had mastered his real taijutsu style and has started to improve it. His training under Yugao also started to show impressive results. He is not a master in Kenjutsu, but whoever saw him using his sword had no doubt he would become one if properly trained. Kakashi was in charge for Naruto's ninjutsu training. He was astonished how diligently Naruto trained in everything. His battle tactics were ingenious if a bit out of the box, but in Shinobi world, the more unique your thinking is, the more chance you have of surviving a battle. Once when roaming the village, he saw the girl, Tenten from the Shinobi store, practicing her weapon skills in a training ground. When asked, he found that she has an unnatural ability with weapons and making shinobi gears. In fact, her skills were good enough to get the attention of Hiruzen, who later gave her some very rare scrolls regarding weapon forging and the works of blacksmith. After that, they met a few more times and then they decided to fix a time so that they both can practice their weapons and shinobi skill regularly. At first she didn't have any shinobi skills except for weapons, and thus she was not accepted in the second year in the academy. Naruto, being Naruto, decided to train her in shinobi skills. After 6 months of training together, Tenten's skill in ninjutsu grew in astonishing rate, though by that time Tenten grew bitter towards the academy and decided to not peruse a career as a shinobi. Naruto and Tenten became very close during their training. Her skills as a weapon forger was something greatly impressed even Kyuubi, and she is not someone to be impressed lightly. Naruto decided that if he had to ever make his weapon, she would be the one to do it. She became Naruto's first friend, and Naruto decided that if she proved herself to him, he would tell her about his plan and about himself. Kyuubi was skeptical at first, but later she wholeheartedly agreed and accepted Tenten as a friend for Naruto and a possible future comrade. Naruto's training under Hiruzen was going very good actually. One thing that baffled Hiruzen was the fact that Naruto told him that the orphanage never taught him how to speak properly, but now he can speak, read and write with ease. When asked, at first Naruto avoided the topic, but when confronted, he used Q-chan's idea and said that living in the open street does that to people. He said that when living in the street, an elderly man offered to teach him how to read and write properly in exchange for food. After that, Hiruzen simply stopped asking him about these things. He was like any true Uzumaki in the aspect of seals. He is only 6 but has already finished his basic and intermediate books on seals. Next week he will start learning how to make simple seals, like storage seals and such. It was not his lack of skill or knowledge that kept him behind, but his handwriting, as one simple mistake can do a lot of damage and Naruto didn't wanted to make one. Naruto kept learning more and proved once again, that if the silly civilians had left their prejudices, he would have become a shinobi worthy of the name Uzumaki and a true legend like his parents. Though there was one thing that made him nervous, that was Danzo and his advisors. They would stop at nothing to have Naruto bound and chained under their command to be unleashed like a dog on their enemies. He does not even want to think about what would happen if they even tried something like that. Too bad, he was about to find out. 6 months later, Naruto age 7. It has been 2 years since Naruto started his training. In these 2 years, he became very strong boy for his age. Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Sandaime Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato and the mighty Biju Kyuubi no Yoko. Naruto's mother figure has been training him in taijutsu, ninjutsu, bojutsu, kenjutsu, seal-making and various other shinobi arts. Naruto excelled them and then some. In these 2 years, many things change. His anger towards Sarutobi is almost gone and he has again started to accept him a little. He still hasn't called him Gigi, but Hiruzen is hopeful that he would be called by that endearing name eventually. Kyuubi became practically Naruto's mother in these past 2 years. Not only that, he now calls her Ka-san. However, now there is another tenant living inside of him, his biological mother, Kushina Uzumaki. Now every night when he sleeps, he goes into his mindscape to get his daily dose of cuddles from both of his mothers. It might sound strange, but that is true. He is the only one in the entire elemental nations who has 2 mothers, though none of them are able to come to the physical world. Both of them loves him unconditionally. He truly was the luckiest person alive. Whenever he thinks about his 7th birthday, he just remembers how he met with his biological mother. His Q-chan or Ka-san gave him the best gift for his birthday ever, hands down. Flashback. On the eve of Naruto's 7th birthday, Kyuubi told Naruto that she was going to do something with his chakra. When Naruto asked what it is, she didn't answer him. Kyuubi slowly started to force her yokai in Naruto's system and told Naruto to brace himself, as it will hurt a little. That was the understatement of the decade. It was so painful that Naruto passed out from the pain. A couple of hours later when he woke up, Kyuubi told him to come to his mindscape as she has a surprise for him. Whenever Naruto visited the mindscape, he would spend his time learning something new about shinobi skills or something related to it. After that, he would snuggle to Kyuubi and they would talk about whatever came to their mind, mostly about her past and Naruto's parents. Kyuubi found it very cute and sweet of him as whenever Naruto snuggles to her, she feels like Naruto's real mother. How she wished that it could be true. She had no idea how soon she was going to get her wish. When Naruto came to his mindscape, he saw his Q-chan talking to another woman. That woman was also very beautiful with long flowing red hair. She and Q-chan could pass practically as sisters. When he came closer to them, Kyuubi told that woman to look behind her. When she did and saw him, she became rigid as a board. She was not the only one, as Naruto was stunned to silence in utter disbelief. Why? Because at that moment, he saw his mother for the very first time in his short but painful life. After a few moments, he found himself in his mother's arms. Joy, anger, sadness, sorrow, all these emotions mixed into one. He didn't know what he should do, so he did what came to his mind first. He cried his heart out to the heavens, clinging to his mother without any indication of ever letting her go again. Kushina was not faring well. She never thought that she would see her son again. Both her and Minato sealed a little of their chakra and life force in Naruto while sealing Kurai, but not even in 1,000 years she thought that it would work. So imagine her surprise when she suddenly found herself standing in front of the cage of Kurai in Naruto's mindscape. She asked Kurai what was happening, how Naruto was, and if the Sandaime was still alive and if the villagers were treating Naruto with respect that he deserves. Kurai didn't say anything except that she has to wait a little bit before getting any answers from her. After composing herself and soothing Naruto a little bit, they began to explain Naruto's life. Kushina found it hard to believe that all this time Naruto was not respected and seen as a hero as the Sandaime had promised, But he was beaten to a bloody pulp whenever the civilians felt like it, and most of the time the Anbu guards did nothing. She became furious when she learned that for a whole year Naruto lived in the streets and ate anything he got from the trash. His life in the orphanage was not happy either, if anything, it was worse. She wanted to take revenge on Konoha for what they did. Only when they told Kushina about their plan to leave the village to bring back Uzushio she calmed down a little. Then the three of them spent 3 hours in the mindscape and made plans how to defect the village, what to learn, what are the qualities he should look for in his allies, and so on. After that, they snuggled together and went to sleep. From then on both Kyuubi and Kushina spent their time by teaching Naruto all that they could. When not training, Naruto searched for potential allies. When Kushina heard about Tenten, she said that she could be a potential ally in the future, but for now not to tell her anything and just keep training with her. After that, Kyuubi told them that she forced some of her yokai and Naruto's chakra and fused it with Kushina's free chakra, thus giving her a form. By no means, she is going to stay with them forever, but she is not going to vanish only after her first visit. When asked how much time she has, Kyuubi answered that according to her calculations she has a little over 5 years. If she can harmonize her chakra with Naruto's chakra, then it is possible that she can last as long as a decade. After that, her chakra will merge with him. That will give Naruto all of her abilities. It made none of them happy, but the original plan was that Kushina would be able to visit Naruto only once when he is much older than now, so they were happy in that regard at least. From then on Kushina started to work in harmonizing her chakra with Naruto's own. She said that she was not there for him when he was little, but she will be damned if that ever happened again. Kushina was also interested in seeing her grandchildren as well. She simply refused to be left out in the fun in spoiling them to Heart's content, though that was going to happen in the distant future. Kushina also did something that made Kurai squeal in delight. She made Naruto call her Ka-san, while she wanted to be called Ka-chan. She was very adamant about it. To her, Kurai did all the hard work a mother does for her children and thus should be known as Naruto's mother as well, just like her. She also officially selected Kurai as Naruto's godmother. Naruto could finally boast that he is the first human who is adopted by a Biju as well. Not just a Biju, by the strongest of them all, mighty Kyuubi. He might not be able to boast about it now, but later he definitely will. Flashback end. Naruto truly deserves the title of genius he was given by his senseis. Still, being a kid of 7 years old and only training day in and day out can become really boring. To make his time bearable, Naruto resorted to pranks. And boy, is he a genius when it comes to plan and execute his pranks. When Kushina encouraged Naruto for pranks and said that it could increase his trap-making skills, he doubled his efforts, although Kyuubi said that Kushina herself was a troublemaker when she was younger. Both of Naruto's mother said that he should wear something that will get him noticed easily and force him to increase his stealth. After that, he started wearing bright neon, kill me, orange. Even after that, others had trouble finding him when he really wanted to hide. A prank, which became legendary among Konoha shinobi and made him a target in the eyes of Anbu as a future recruit, was and still is the talk of the town. What he did was very simple and at the same time very complex as well. He switched the Anbu masks with painted masks he had already prepared beforehand. The part, which baffles everyone, is the fact that he never went within 50 feet of any Anbu on that day. The Anbu division had started their day like any other. They had their equipments checked and then they set out to work. When they got into their posts, even then their masks were intact. Suddenly the looks of amusement they got from the villagers alerted them that something was wrong, but they ignored it at first. And that was their mistake. Within 1 hour flat, Naruto had switched their masks with his specially prepared masks, and none was the wiser. No one would have doubted him if he could just hold his laughter for a little bit longer. After the Anbu realized what happened, it was a village-wide chase and run. After about 1.5 hours of running, he was finally caught and brought to the Hokage office. After hearing everything, Hiruzen was amused to no end and ordered them to wear that mask as punishment for being caught off guard by a mere child. They accepted the punishment in exchange for the information on how Naruto did that. When he got permission from Hokage to tell the truth, he said, "I used Kawarimi between the mask you had and the mask I had prepared." Hokage-sama told me how the matriarch of the Uchiha clan can do the same and many more with this simple technique of kawarimi and thus known as the Kami no Kawarimi. I wanted to do the same, so I practiced with it until I could do that without hand seals. When I got that down, I simply used it in real world to test its usefulness, and I have to say, it is a very handy jutsu when used properly. It was no secret to the higher-ups in the Anbu about his parents' identity and that the Sandaime was training him, so they were happy to see the Taike stir some trouble. However, to see how a simple jutsu like kawarimi can do when mastered only one or two aspects of its versatile usability to this level was humbling, exciting and terrifying at the same time. This prank got him the title of Prankster King from Hell by the shinobi populace of Konoha, who were accepting of him. One of the Anbu decided to speak. "Naruto, if you promise to not prank on Anbu, I will give you a jutsu and tell you other various uses of the kawarimi. What do you say, is this acceptable to you?" Naruto was excited to say the least. Everyone knew he was a sucker when it came to new jutsu. They used it in the past to get away from him or to occupy him when he started to pester them, which gave him a lot of low-powered, but cool, in Naruto's opinion at least, jutsus. Really? What jutsu am I going to learn? What does it do? How to use it? Nay, tell me Inu ni-san. He started firing question after question at the Anbu in front of him. A female Anbu with cat mask started to laugh at his antics. "Easy there, Tiger, calm yourself or you are going to blow your head from all this excitement." Then looking at Inu she said, "Inu senpai, I think you should tell him or he is going to pester you till you keep your end of the bargain." Kakashi, or Inu as he is known as an Anbu, shrugged and said, "I will, but I need Hokage-sama's permission first to teach him this jutsu. I want to teach him the shadow clone technique." All who were present in the room were startled at this. Shadow clone is no child's play as it is a Jonin-level kinjutsu for its extreme chakra cost. So teaching this kind of jutsu to a mere child was a lot of stretch, as this can damage the user's chakra coil and can even kill the user if not used properly and carefully. Hiruzen was the only one who was calm by Kakashi's proclamation. He calmly asked, "Are you sure about this, Inu? You know it's a kinjutsu for a reason." Kakashi nodded his head with confidence and said, "I know, Hokage-sama. But you know very well whose child he is as well. So you tell me, when was the last time you saw an Uzumaki die out of chakra exhaustion? If he was anyone else, I would never even think about teaching him this jutsu." Hiruzen, satisfied with his subordinate's answer, nodded and gave permission to teach Naruto this jutsu. 2 hours later, Naruto was hard at work trying to master the shadow clone for last 2 hours straight. And the way it looks, he will have it mastered within the hour if he can keep it up. Kakashi looked proudly at Naruto. He reminds Kakashi so much of his late sensei and his loving wife. Minato sensei and Kushina sensei was like his second parents, which makes Naruto his little brother in a sense. When Hiruzen informed him that he is now permitted to meet Naruto, as he is aware of his parents' identity, he was the happiest since forever. After his sensei died, he kept himself only to his work. He completely detached himself from the rest of the world. The problem was gaining trust from Naruto. It took a long time for them and a few other members of Anbu to gain his trust. His cheerfulness, happiness and ability to be always curious are a source of joy and amusement for the elderly Hokage and the Anbu. Before he came in, the Anbu was like a jail, but now it is like coming home after a long mission. His attitude and cheerfulness made him an important member to all the Anbu. A few of the Anbu took it upon themselves to train him in the shinobi arts when the Hokage was busy. Neiko taught him about kenjutsu, as she was a student of his mother and a kenjutsu master as well. Kakashi was a natural when it came to ninjutsu. A few others did a lot of training with him. They found that training Naruto is the best way to get themselves trained as well. It was fun, and with Naruto's natural out-of-the-box thinking, they learned how to use normal, overly used simple techniques in many different ways that can become a game changer. It was no secret that Naruto has a gift when it came to strategies and trap making. They also learned to expect the unexpected from Naruto. He is simply that much unpredictable. While training with him, they never taught him anything reckless or too dangerous, just the basics, but in the hands of a master prankster, even the most harmless techniques could be lethal. He proved this point many times during his pranks in the past, which in turn made the Anbu very good at finding traps and disarming them. But nothing lasts forever. Hiruzen knew that. He was afraid what the council and elders might do to get their hands on Naruto. His old teammates and Danzo are really getting on his nerves. He is afraid they might do something that would endanger Naruto and to an extent, Konoha as well. He remembered what happened in the last council meeting. Flashback. Finally, after a long time, Hiruzen was having a good day, reading his type of literature written by his favorite student Jiraiya. When he was training the Sanins, Orochimaru was his favorite, but if he knew Jiraiya would be able to write stuff like that and Orochimaru will betray the village the way he did, then he would have been Hiruzen's favorite, hands down. He really wished days like this would come more often, but he knew it was too much to ask for, sadly. He was enjoying his little downtime while smoking his pipe and reading Icha Icha. Personal secretary, newest in the market and best one yet. It is the first one in the series with a very good plot with the usual Jiraiya-style steaminess. Days like this are few and far between. He wished that days like that would never end. Just then, his secretary walked in. Hokage-sama, the council has called for a meeting in the council hall. They said it was very important, and told you to be there within 15 minutes. Hiruzen frowned at this, as only he can call for a meeting, his advisors can do that only on wartime. He knew each and every time they called for a meeting, it was to inform him about some stupid things. Though, he had to admit last two meetings had been interesting, to him at least. They complained that Naruto vandalized some of their property. When asked, they didn't have any proof to their claim. He warned them to not say something like that if they lacked proof. He thought that he should just get over with whatever stupid excuse they have this time. When he walked in the council chamber, the Shinobi Council and the Civilian Council were arguing hard about something. He calmly walked into the room as room fell silent. After taking his seat, cleared his throat and addressed his council. "All right, councilmen, settle down. Before the session begins, I would like to remind you that only I have the right to call for a meeting, so do not do that in the future. Am I understood? Good. Now what is the reason for calling this meeting?" Homura, one of Hiruzen's teammates, stood up and said, "We apologize, Hokage-sama. But the matter is very serious as it concerns the village security and its position as the strongest of the 5 great nations." Hiruzen simply raised his hand and said, "If you have again called this meeting to preach about how Naruto pranked one of you, then this meeting is adjourned right now, as I see no reason to continue this facade, because all of us are aware of the fact why you want to do that. So if you have anything important by Shinobi standard and not to preach about how the boy should have been killed the moment he was born, then I believe the meeting is now closed." He was about to rise from his seat as he had no interest in hearing about their complaints. He had heard and said enough to last the rest of his life. But before he could rise, Homura again stopped him and said, "It is indeed concerns our young Jinchuriki, but not in the way you think. He is 7 years old now, isn't it, Hokage-sama? He is of the age where his shinobi training should begin. I mean, we could not just let him roam free. He is our weapon after all. Plus, this year many heirs from different clans are going to attend the academy. It is indeed very prudent that Naruto attends the academy to get acquainted with them, as he will serve them in the future." They could see the look in Hiruzen's eye. It was no secret that he holds Naruto in high regards, like his surrogate grandson. However, what can he do when the whole council is against him? He is one man after all. Hokage or not, no one can face whole council alone when they are unified. Kaharu, Hiruzen's other teammate, continued, "As you know, the brat is 7 years old and is eligible to enter the academy. It is time that we invest in him to make him strong so that he could become the perfect weapon he is meant to be. A weak weapon is no use to us after all." Hiruzen was furious at their lack of respect for the son of his successor. However, he is powerless before this council. He was desperate for a way to stop them from getting their hands on Naruto. He knew if they got their hands on him, they would only train him the bare minimum, and send him off to suicide missions. Fortunately, for him, the Civilian Council, first time since their creation and maybe for the last time as well, gave him an idea. A fat businessman rose from his seat and said that it is not a good idea to train the brat. His reasons were laughable but understandable, from his point of view at least. He said if the Kyuubi got strong, he might finish what he started all those years ago. Hiruzen though corrected him, saying that Naruto is not the Kyuubi, but still his thoughts have some merit. As if he is trained, then there is high chance that he will be exposed to Kyuubi's dark-natured chakra, which will not bode well for Konoha. Therefore, he overruled Shinobi Council's idea of training Naruto. Though the meeting ended that day, he saw the looks in the elders' eyes. The look of pure rage and anger building in them. Rage building for being denied to get their hands on Naruto so that they could train him and send him off to suicide missions in hope of getting him killed, and then taking over his fortune and jutsu left behind by his parents. The only problem was, no matter how much they tried, they just couldn't locate his fortune. It was as if his entire fortune just vanished in thin air. At first, they thought that the old Hokage fooled them and gave all the property to that vile creature, but later they found that the fourth himself withdrew all of his money from the bank, but never deposited it again. And as far as they knew, all the jutsu created by him and that whore he called his wife are locked away in his estate. To this day, they are in the dark where all that property went. Flashback end. That day, Hiruzen finally accepted that no matter what he did, Naruto would never be safe inside of Konoha. If he truly wants to give Naruto a chance to have a happy, free life, then he has to send him out of Konoha. Life is such a mystery, Hiruzen sighed. Just last year he was thinking that Naruto would want to leave the village, and now he is thinking of sending Naruto out of the village to keep him safe. Hiruzen was searching for just an excuse to elope Naruto from the eyes of the council just for a little time and train him harder than ever to give him chance at living his life. He noticed the look in Naruto's eyes when he trains and is in fact aware of his thinking of defecting the village. Hiruzen had known it from the very first day he started training Naruto. He is very hurt that a boy of Naruto's age will think something like that, but frankly, he could not find any fault in the child's thinking. However, as he is at this moment, he will stand no chance in the real world. For that, he will need skills, experience, strength and friends and allies. People he could depend on, people he could trust to watch his back. Right now, he could do nothing for other things, but he can train him to make him strong. He will do that for now. Okay Naruto, you got the jutsu down. All you have to do now is perfect it so that you do not waste any chakra. Kakashi's voice broke him out of his dark thoughts about Naruto's safety. He saw Naruto had created 10 shadow clones perfectly, but he is tired from all the chakra that was wasted while perfecting this jutsu. He fell to the ground face first, exhausted and unconscious. Kakashi picked him up and went to his apartment and tucked him in his bed. He was very proud of his little brother. The way he trained, the look of concentration on his face, that determination, and that happy and idiotic smile on his face after he mastered his technique was just like his sensei. Truly, this fire-headed tyke is Minato sensei and Kushina sensei's son in every way that matters. Unknown location. The council meeting was an utter waste of time. Homura, Koharu and Danzo were unable to convince Hiruzen that the brat must be trained in shinobi arts. It was prudent if they wanted to hold their position as strongest of great 5 nations. But that old fool, he supported the civilians and denied Konoha the prosperity it deserves as the ruler of the entire elemental nations. The 3 advisors were hard at coming up with a plan to get the brat under their thumbs where he belongs. Koharu said, "That fool, the way he is ruling Konoha, he will destroy our position as the strongest. He doesn't even want to look at it. The brat is a Jinchuriki, a weapon with immense power. If he is trained, he will be our trump card. He can win all the wars for us single-handed. But no, that old buffoon has to look high and moral." Danzo knew his old friend and was prepared for it. However, he had hoped that finally that old-timer rival of his would make a right decision this time. But no, he still held onto his ideals desperately. However, this is not the first time that fool has denied their wishes, and definitely not the first time they have gone behind his back to get what they want. Danzo addressed his fellow conspirators. "I know we had hoped that our friend will see things our way for this once, but he did not. We cannot duel on that. Konoha deserves to be the ruler of the elemental nations and it will be. I will deploy a few of my best operatives to watch over the brat and abduct him. After he is properly conditioned, I will train him personally. My son is of the same age as well. I will train both of them personally. However, I believe that our young Jinchuriki is not untrained." Every shinobi had heard the rumor of Naruto's pranks on the village. However, the last prank on the Anbu had piqued their interest the most, or rather his method of execution of his prank, Kawarimi. Where most of the shinobi were skeptical at this, the elders were not. It is not impossible to learn to do this simple jutsu. That is an academy-level jutsu. This tells that Naruto is no stranger to the use of chakra. He may even have at least some skills. Maybe someone was training him all this time, hiding from the view. To what end though, no one knows. However, it is a theory only, as he could have picked it up on one of the training grounds. It is no secret after all that he is very fond of wandering around the village. Still, this will speed up the process of teaching him once he is conditioned properly. After discussing about how to acquire Naruto without rousing any suspicion, and about his training procedure, they ended their meeting. Few days later, Naruto was wandering around the village. He had no training scheduled for this whole week and he was getting bored. The Hokage and the Anbu said it is equally important to rest properly as well. If your body is continuously pushed beyond its limit without the needed time to cope with it, then it will not make him strong, on the contrary, it will only hinder his performance. So now here he was, wandering around the village receiving glares from the populace and returning them while walking at a leisurely pace. He saw the Ichiraku's sign and decided to head there. He has not eaten any ramen for at least a month. He had developed a very strong liking to this food, but being trained and guided from the beginning has stopped him from devouring this dish at every chance he got. Entering the bar, he sat on a stool and announced his presence in his usual way. "Hey old man, your favorite customer is back for more of the godly dish you make called ramen. Hurry up, I am hungry." Tucci came at the front of the shop while drying his hands on his apron. "Hey Naruto, how are doing? Haven't seen you in a while. Busy training?" Tucci asked in a kind manner. It was no secret that he holds Naruto very fondly and in a very high regard. "Yep, Inu and Hokage-sama have been teaching me a lot of new things. Inu even taught me a new jutsu. Though that jutsu took a lot out of me, I actually passed out from exhaustion." Naruto said the last part with an embarrassed voice. While they were talking, Ayame walked in with a bag of groceries. Ayame became Naruto's sister figure. She guided him, scolded him, pampered him, spoilt him and yet kept him on the line. She was perfectly balancing his time between having fun and training. The best part about her is that she helped many times with Naruto's pranks by buying him stuffs, helping him to plan his prank, giving him the layout of the shops that refused to sell him, and she actually gave him some awesome prank idea. She said that by practicing his skill like this he would know how to plan, what to keep in mind while on a mission and many things. Ayame, seeing Naruto, greeted him. "Hey Naruto, how are you? I have not seen you in a while. Training hard as usual?" Naruto looked at her and smiled. "Hi Ayame Ne-chan. Hi, I have been training for this whole time. But a few days ago after learning a new jutsu, I passed out. So, Inu-san and Hokage-sama kinda gave me this whole week to myself. They said not to train for first 2 days and after that only light training. I finished my training for the day and now I am bored out of my mind and I still have to wait for 2 more days. Will you help me in a new prank Ne-chan? Please?" Naruto asked in a hopeful voice. His Ne-chan is amazing when it comes to planning. But unfortunately, today he will not be doing any pranks. "Sorry Otuto, from today I am going to help Tu-san in his business." Looking at Naruto's dejected face she felt sad. "I have an idea Naruto, why don't you join us in the kitchen? I can teach you a few simple but healthy and tasty easy to cook dishes. It would be fun." Looking at his doubtful face, Ayame decided to give him a real-life value of cooking. "Naruto, you might think cooking is not a good skill to have, but if you learn how to cook it might just save your life someday. You know, when you will go in a mission, you might not have anything to eat, but if you know how to cook, all you have to do is just catch some fish or catch some games from nearby stream or jungle and you will have freshly cooked healthy and tasty food. Plus believe me when I say this, cooking is actually very fun." After that, Naruto gave in and started his training under Ayame and Tucci as a chef. He was not trying to learn anything flashy. He was only interested in simple, small time-consuming healthy foods and salads. Tucci and Ayame had plenty of those kinds of recipes. Naruto came back the next day and the next to learn more about cooking and spend some time with his surrogate family. Unknown to any of them, few figures clad in dark cloth with plain white mask were keeping an eye on them. These were the Root Anbu under Danzo's command, who were sent to gauge Naruto's skill and abduct him. They have been at it for last couple of days. And in these 2 days, they have seen Naruto train in taijutsu and a few simple ninjutsu. Though it was very simple for them, but doing them without any proper training was still a feat. When they reported their findings to Danzo, that man was flying sky high. He could not just believe that a child this young without any trainer could do things like that. He had no doubt about that if Naruto is properly trained, in the battlefield he would be a formidable enemy or a very reliable ally to have. However, Danzo wanted him as his personal weapon, not as an ally. Evening, Naruto learned a few simple dishes to make in last 3 days. It was easy, tasty, and very healthy. The best part of the day was he had loads and loads of fun learning how to cook. Who knew cooking could be this much fun? He promised to Ayame and Tucci to come back again and learn to cook more from them when he got some more time to himself. It was the last day of his probation and from tomorrow, he can go back to training. Just when he left the shop, 6 figures started to follow him from the dark. They were looking for an ambush point in a secluded area where they will first gauge his skill and then abduct him, as per Danzo's order. When they were crossing a rundown apartment, they saw their chance. They jumped from the roof and landed around Naruto. Naruto did not understood what was going on, so he tried to sidestep them and tried to go on his way, but the rude Anbu pushed him back. Naruto, angry and pissed at this, demanded an apology from them, but they just simply stared at him. After a few moments of staring, they demanded that he should come with them. Otherwise, they will have no choice but to kill him. Not to be put down with threats like that, Naruto challenged them. The first root charged at him from the front. He only used taijutsu, but still his skill was way above for Naruto. Naruto got into his own stance and waited for the perfect moment and then suddenly used a snap kick in his opponent's chest. His normally increased strength combined with his training knocked out his first opponent in only one single hit and broke at least 4 of his ribs. The rest root members understood that Naruto was holding back in his training, probably to fool others if they were spying on him. They got serious and charged at him from 2 sides this time. Naruto ducked and rolled under the first attack that came from his right side and ended in a crouch. Then he punched hard in the groin of the second attacker and chopped him in the back of his head. Then he vaulted over the first attacker and launched a butterfly kick, which knocked him out. Within moments, 2 were down. Naruto evaded an attack from 4th attacker by jumping backwards, but one root attacked him from behind. He chopped Naruto at the back of his head hard, which made him very dizzy. If it was anyone else, he had no doubt they would lose consciousness. He just got back up and punched the root in his face, which broke his jaw and knocked him out. After only starting to fight, he took out 4 of the root members. The last 2 members understood that Naruto is much more trained than any of them thought. They knew that if they don't go all out the mission will fail. No matter how much you train someone, without experience they will fall. So when the last 2 of the root attacked him in tandem, there was nothing that Naruto could do. He lost the fight but not easily. Once he was down, the root operatives slung him on their shoulder and started to move towards their hideout. They were impressed by Naruto's skill what they have seen so far. His use of taijutsu and his movements were precise. He didn't waste any movement. He was able to knock out 4 of their own members, which is very impressive for a boy his age, though none of them used their full power. They knew very well that their target has some very good skills regarding taijutsu and some very good skill in ninjutsu from what they have seen from his training. It was only experience that he lacked, but that could be easily fixed with some training and some small training missions. Plus, his attitude and will to never back down from a fight even when he is outnumbered means whatever the situation is he would not hold back. It is a trait Lord Danzo wishes to see in every root member. Mindscape. As soon as Naruto lost his consciousness, Kyuubi pulled him in his mindscape. Once there, she told him that these shinobi are from a different division called Root. Even his father was a bit wary about them for their peculiar character or rather for the lack of it. She told Naruto that he is not strong enough at this moment to face them alone and come victorious when they are serious. He has only one choice and that is to use her yokai. Naruto knew if he used Q-chan's yokai, the village would feel the pressure from it. That also meant that the Hokage would feel it as well and will bring reinforcement with him to get him out of trouble. So all he has to do once starting to use the yokai is just last long enough and wait for help to arrive. Though he knew, it was going to be a lot harder than he is thinking. He has to control his emotions along with his movement so that he doesn't waste any move. His objective is to only buy time and wait for the help to arrive and live long enough. Once prepared, he gave Kyuubi a small nod and braced himself for the inevitable pain that was going to follow, and after only a second, it came like a wraith. Real world. With a piercing scream, Naruto came crashing back to reality. Opening his eyes, he saw a red fiery chakra shroud has covered his entire body. He looked fascinated as his nails lengthened, his vision became much clearer and his canines lengthened as well. Unknown to him, one chakra tail emerged from the bottom of his spine. After releasing a mighty scream at the offenders, he attacked them. Danzo was a man who wanted to do everything his way. To him shinobi are nothing but a weapon, and thus they should have no emotion. So he created a secret Anbu division known as Root. Hiruzen knew this, and at first, he was glad about it. He still saw the merit in it, but Danzo's training methods, especially his conditioning process, is what bothered him. Shinobis are weapons, yes, but they are also humans too, but Danzo never understood this simple fact. His training is nothing but brutal that only Jonin-level shinobi could complete. He never understood that the reason Konoha is the strongest of the Great Five Nations because they never start a fight intentionally and attack only to defend their home, their loved ones. These feelings are what made Konoha's shinobi truly feared. Because once their loved ones are threatened, they stopped at nothing and destroyed their enemies. However, Danzo's training or emotional conditioning is taking away their gift and in turn making them incapable of being the best that they could be. The will of fire is not just a phrase once said by the Shoden, it's the way of life of a Konoha shinobi, their will to do anything to protect and defend their loved ones. Danzo never understood this, Hiruzen did, and that's the reason Naruto chose him as his successor. However, human mind is very complicated in nature and no matter what, no training and conditioning can suppress its feeling. All it needs is the right stimuli. The Kyuubi's evil yokai was that stimuli for those Root Anbu members. When the red chakras started to cover the firehead's body, they were startled, but as that power started to rise little by little, they started to feel again. The first emotion they felt first time in over 4 years is fear. Too bad, because this is going to be their last as well. Hokage Tower. Hiruzen was doing his normal routine as a Hokage he was doing for last 30 years, paperwork. He was thinking about a way to keep Naruto safe from the clutches of the elders in his council. That's when he felt it. The power of the Kyuubi's evil chakra was washing over him like waves. The only good thing is it is not as powerful as when he felt it last time. He immediately called his personal Anbu guards and left the office in search for Naruto. It did not take too much time, as it is impossible to miss the red blob of chakra moving around. He along with his guards when found Naruto he was fighting the remaining Root agents. Without waiting anymore, Hiruzen jumped into the fight and easily dealt with them. But now came the hard part, he had to calm down the firehead or he can easily destroy the whole village. However, when Naruto saw him he smiled at him weakly as the chakra shroud started to fade. When he neared the boy, he heard him calling, "Gigi," once and after that Naruto lost consciousness. Hiruzen ordered his guards to take the offenders into custody as he took Naruto to the hospital. 2 days later. It was 2 days since the kidnapping attempt at Naruto and he still has to wake up. Like last time Hiruzen is anxious and impatient about Naruto's health. He just could not help himself, this boy has barely started his life and already so many people are after him. He truly started to fear for his safety. Another thing, which is eating at him, is the identity of Naruto's attackers. They had taken 2 attackers as a prisoner to be interrogated, but that scoundrels had committed suicide before he could be even delivered to the T&I department. Other 4 knocked out agents woke up, but the pressure Kyuubi's yokai killed them. Therefore, all they have right now is Naruto's statement and for that, he has to be awake. He knew what was taking him so long, Kyuubi's powerful yokai is not a child's play after all, and as such has a very serious cost to it. He will need time to regain his health before he could resume his training. He was only afraid that if Naruto remembers it, he would ask him about which he does not need right now. He looked at the bed where Naruto was when he heard groaning. When he saw Naruto was waking up, he asked, "How are you, Naruto?" "What hit me? My head's hurting," Naruto answered. He knew that Sandame was afraid if he remembers anything from his fight. He understood it would be too troublesome to deal with right now and he didn't want that, so he chose to hold back that information. "Other than that I am fine. Thanks for helping me, Hokage-sama. Don't mention it, my boy. I am happy that they were not able to hurt you, Naruto." "Do you know who were they?" Sandame asked. "I don't know, Hokage-sama. I was going home when they suddenly jumped in front of me. I tried to walk away but they pushed me back. When I demanded an answer out of them, they didn't. Moreover, they demanded that I should go with them or they will have no choice but to kill me. Naruto said. Hiruzen got a thoughtful look on his face, just for a second. Then suddenly he looked ready to kill. He knew that the elders would try to get Naruto under their thumb, but not this early. Hiruzen realized they were desperate, but for what he had no idea. Whatever it is, it does not bode well for Naruto or Konoha. He understood that Danzo had deployed his root agents to abduct Naruto. He understood that any chance of giving Naruto the future that he wanted was now forever out of his reach. He had to send Naruto out of Konoha just to keep him alive. However, before that he has to make sure that Naruto is strong enough to survive in those conditions. Without the knowledge how to protect himself, Naruto won't even survive a day out of Konoha. He remembered that Minato and Kushina used to train in the Forest of Death to improve their awareness and in survival tactics in hostile territory. They had a hut there to live. If he wants to train Naruto in survival training, then what better place to do so in the Forest of Death? Now he has to prepare for Naruto's departure and an alibi, which he already has thought of so that no one can trace him before he wants to be found. He told Naruto to rest for now and said that he is going to his home to pack his things and then he will take him into hiding. Naruto knew the enemies had already targeted his life once and they will do so again if they got the chance. Thus, he said nothing and only nodded his head in acceptance. He did not know where the Hokage was taking him, but it has to be one of Konoha's most guarded secret, given that he is the Jinchuriki of Kyuubi and the son of the fourth. 3 days later, he was standing outside of the Forest of Death, or Training Ground 44. He heard from the Hokage that his parents used to come here for their survival training. They even had a hut built in there. Naruto and the elderly Hokage both were carrying few scrolls with them. It is filled to brim with Naruto's necessities, food, meat, spices, cloths, his entire library, both known and unknown to the Hokage and whatnot. Naruto knew that a chapter just ended for him and a new one started. With that thought in mind, they both stepped into the Forest of Death.
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.